Hi everyone, I'm Moturin. Agelixer asked for a tutorial on how I build and stuff. Well, I kind of offered to make a video. So here I am in empty base plate with nothing. So I'm just going to give a few tips on how to build better. I'm going to show you the bricks I use. So the first thing I do is I insert to from file my personal set of bricks that I use. They're automatically anchored, and this is something that you should do too, because you're probably going to be using anchored parts when you're building, and very rarely are you going to need something to be unanchored, and if you do, then you can just do that, unanchor it. So it's just a lot easier to have your bricks to be anchored by default. I'm going to be showing you how you can get your bricks like this and the settings I use. Oops. So this is the default parts. You have like the block, the brick, it's a block, a sphere, a wedge, and a cylinder. This is called a wedge, but I call it a triangle because why not? So I think by the default it's set to one stud, and that means when you're scaling it, this is how it scales. It scales really big, and as a result, it ends up making your places look really blocky, and that's not something that you really want to do. And the same for all of these other things. So what I do, instead of having it set to one stud, I set it to 1/5 stud. 1/5 stud. And what that does is instead of having it as one stud, it makes it so when you scale, it scales by increments of 0.2, and that's a lot more helpful than having everything be one stud. And you can also have different plugins. These are the plugins I use. Fex has really good building tools, and I use these to do it by smaller increments. Like this is how I use it. I use increments of 0.1, like when I need to, because it doesn't go that small. It's either 1/5 or off, and I don't use off that often. So how do you get your bricks to be this small? You'll find that when you're scaling, this is as small as it lets you by the default. And they're small, but they're not small enough to make good detailed games. So the setting I use, you go into the properties and you change the form factor. That's near the bottom under part. You change it from whatever it's set to. This set to symmetric, set it to custom, and that way this is how you get it to end up being as small as this. Very small little brick. And you can change that on all of them. And you can play with the different form factors, but I always set it to custom because that's how you get the small little bricks to make more detailed builds. There are also different special meshes that you can apply to a brick, and to do that you right click, insert object, and then you do special mesh. By default the special mesh goes to the head mesh, which cannot union, which I'll discuss later, you can go under mesh and mesh type, and it can change all of the different meshes. File mesh doesn't really do anything. I think it's just left over from when user meshes were available. So what you can do, the extra meshes that you get are the head mesh and the torso mesh. And this is actually the torso mesh is actually a really helpful little thing. I use this to make like stands for laptops or for computers. Like this. Now it's a little stand for a computer. So once you figure out how to use all of the different block types, then you're gonna go far. Just already. Okay. So now onto the other settings that I use. I use custom as the form factor so that I can make smaller, more detailed objects. And obviously I keep it on 1/5 stud. I anchor all of my parts. And also I keep the collisions off. And I think the default is collisions on. And what that does is when you're moving something or when you're scaling something, it doesn't let you go through a part. And it's useful sometimes, like if you want something to be against a wall perfectly, then that's when I put on collisions, but for the most part it's not that useful. So when you keep collisions off, that's when you can overlap different parts. Okay, now on to the cool part of making really intricate builds. Solid modeling. I figured out how to solid model halfway through my first showcase, and that's the way to make really intricate builds. I'm gonna insert something. Okay, this is something that I made for Cartoon 5, and it's made up of different unions. Solid modeling. Unions are just what they call the parts that you make after solid modeling. So this is just an example of something that you can make through solid modeling. Now how you actually do it, you have a part that's cool, and you have another part that's pretty cool too. You can negate another part so that what negate does is it subtracts a section of a brick, so it's overlapping with this brick. Now what do? We union it. Ta-da! And now it's a very interesting little brick. The thing that happens though with unions is that it kind of treats it like a mesh. When you scale it, it scales the entire part, and you can't do this or this. You can't scale separate sides of it. You scale the entire thing, which is a little bit of a problem because that means you'll have to make the scale perfect on a union before you actually union it. But other than that, it's a really helpful thing. It's a really helpful tool, and it's how you make intricate little things. I'm gonna ungroup this. It's probably going to be hell because it's a lot of different parts. This is the top part of the little clock. There are lots of different little parts, lots of unions. As you can tell, it shows up as a lot of unions. And I'm just going to show you how I made all of these unions. So this little middle part is a union. Separate. Okay. You can also just add normal parts to another union or just another part so you can make it easier, and it also removes like this edge right here. Well, shit. It removes okay. This is what it looks like when it unioned. That's also another problem. There are lots of different errors that you're gonna get when you union. You just gotta pray for the best that you don't die. When it's unioned, it doesn't show any edge. And as you can see when it shows the edge, and that's not a very clean look, so it just helps things look a little bit cleaner. So this shows a little circle, separate it, and it actually, how I did that is I negated a sphere or a cylinder and I unioned it with just a normal everyday block, and that's what I did. And also it can help you to make things look a little smoother, like what I did here. Well, okay. This is actually a model, it's not actually a union. This is just a little cool thing that you can do. Oh, it actually is a union, okay. So what I did, separate. You actually don't have to union these, but what it is, it's a bunch of little cylinders at the edge of a normal brick, and that makes it look smoother. I also have little spheres at the ends. They're unioned together. And that's how you can have smoother edges. Another way to have smooth edges, but not as efficient, is to have a torso mesh. This is just a normal torso from just the characters that we have every single day. We walk around with them. This is kind of advanced to use random meshes to build though. I don't really use this at all. I feel like I'm not making any sense here. But then again, I'm horrible at explaining things.